Hi everyone, I'm Lark with the Madison Library District, and because the library is doing On the Same Page with Winnie the Pooh, we decided that today's craft we would be making floating woven art with the theme of Winnie the Pooh. And it should be a lot of fun. Let's get started. Okay, so in your kit, you're going to find you have a frame, about 15 thumbtacks, a white piece of yarn, blue yarn, yellow yarn, a little picture of a template or a template picture to go off of. You will want to grab a sharpie, some scissors, and a hammer and some tape, because you're going to want to tape the end of your yarn so it doesn't fray as you weave, but that will come a little bit later. Okay, so to get started, you are going to want to put your frame kind of this way, and what we're going to do is we're going to line these up, and I'm going to push them in just a little bit. And when I was doing the sample initially for this, I was able to get about 7 across here and here. And so I'm just going to kind of place them in. And I'm not pushing them in all the way because I'm going to be wrapping some yarn around in just a second. And with the other side, you can either make them straight across, or you can kind of alternate them from where, so put them across, but in the middle of where your other 2 pins might be. This pin doesn't want to go in because I think there's a piece of knot in the wood. And so I'm just going to move it up a little bit and see if it goes in. Easier if I move it to the side. So I'm going to kind of hold it in place and just kind of put it in. Again, I'm not putting them in all the way in yet. I have them raised up because I'm going to be wrapping my yarn around them. Okay, so I'm pounded them in a little bit. Again, they're not all the way in. And I'm saving this one until I figure out which side it needs to be on as I wrap it. So then you're going to take your white yarn, and whichever end you decide to start with, you're going to wrap it around the base of this 2 or 3 times as a way of like really knotting it into place. Okay, and so I've wrapped it around a couple times, and now I'm going to take the hammer, and I'm going to pound that one in as close to the table or as close to the frame. So if you see, this one's hammered in all the way now, and these ones are all sticking up. Okay, and then you take it and you just wrap it and you pull it tight, and then you kind of go back and forth. And it's really crooked. My yarn actually isn't long enough to utilize all of these pins, so again I'm going to wrap it around this one a couple of times and hammer it in. And now that all of these are wrapped tight, I'm going to pound the rest of these in. If you want, you can grab some more yarn if you have any yarn and tie it off on the string here and just continue wrapping around if you want. But this should work. Okay, now that I have this laid out this way, what I'm going to do, and since I don't need this tag, I'm just going to throw this one away. If you have other purposes for tags, you can use how you see fit. Anyways, I'm going to put this template picture where I want it placed in the frame, and then I'm going to come through with this marker, and I'm going to make little dots of where his torso is. Okay, so right now it looks like that, which doesn't look like much of anything. However, after I do that, which because this is crooked, I probably should have scooted him over like this. Would have been more ideal. So I am actually going to move him over here, and so we're just going to ignore these initial ones I put down because I'm not going to utilize them. And to differentiate, and I was going to come back through and do this anyways, but so I guess I'll just kind of put some back there. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to color this section. And what this is going to help me realize is where I need to start curving in my weaving versus where I need to continue to be rounded out. Okay, so as you can see, there's black lines now, and that's more what I'm going to follow. And then I'm going to just put this kind of back here for a second because I'm going to go ahead and do my balloon up here. And if you want, you can do whatever other kind of design you want, or use whatever yarn you might or string you might have at home. You don't have to do Winnie the Pooh. I'm just doing Winnie the Pooh because it felt like a fun thing to do since it's on the same page. Okay, so you can see black lines up here, black lines here, and this is going to be my overall shape that I'm going to try to follow. Okay, and then you're going to want to tape the edge of your yarn like this so that it has a hard protection around it so that it doesn't fray constantly as you're trying to weave in and out of things. And then I'm going to start with the foot because I want the foot to look like little round section in the weaving, and I don't want to necessarily weave a foot, and so I'm going to make my knot to start it off the foot. So I'm going to wrap this end around these two parts essentially, and then I'm going to pull it a little bit and flip it over, and this I'm just going to tie a basic kind of a knot. And I'm actually going to double knot it because because I don't want this to come out. So I'm putting this end through again, and I'm just going to knot it. Okay, and I can cut off that little tail. Okay, so now we have a little kind of foot. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start weaving in, over, under, and over, under again kind of thing. So here we are, over this one, under this one, and then I'm going to go over and under. Okay. And I'm going to kind of angle it that way because that's kind of the shape it's in. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to repeat the same process. Except somehow it slipped. So okay, so if you see, over, under, over. So now I'm going to go backwards of what I just did. So I'm going to go under, over, under. Okay, and weaving, you'll always get this gap in between your initial weaves, and so you'll want to take your fingers and push it tight and then pull this tight and push that down. You don't want to pull too tight because then your weave will scrunch together. So you want to pull it tight enough that it's not leaving any gaps there in your weave, and then push it down, and then you just repeat that. So because my black lines extend out here, so I'm going to go under this one now. So under. Okay, so see how we're starting to get a weaving pattern coming through, and again I'm going to push this up, and I kind of use my fingers to help shape it more because I want this to look like it's curving downward-ish. And we're getting to the second foot sticking out right here, so I'm just going to loop this one around a couple of times. And go under here. A lot of this might be trial and error. You might find doing one thing works better for you than doing another thing. And so just do what works until you like the picture that you're getting. Okay, so that's kind of my other Winnie the Pooh leg, right up that way. And so now I'm going to come back through here, and I'm going to pull this this one here kind of towards the back of that, and I'm going to hold it with my finger so it stays more or less in place, and I'm going to just go back and forth, except I got overexcited because you need to finish pulling it through for it to follow its pattern. I find it easiest to kind of try to thread through multiple things at once, and I apparently missed, I did the wrong over or under on this one, and so that's why you're seeing black line there. And so if I wanted to, it's easy enough and it's a mistake that I'm noticing ahead of time. And this is another reason why it's good to push down every line after you weave it through, so you can kind of see if you're skipping any or if you're catching them all. So I just took those out, and I'm going over, under, over, under, and let's see if that worked. So ta-da, less black is showing, which means I was able to go over my corrected line. And I might need to add some yarn to all of your things, because I don't know if this yellow piece is actually going to be enough. I didn't initially put enough in. I'm just going to cut off my tape, and I am going to tie on a new piece and tie it on with at least two knots. Okay, so I had to find a new piece of tape, and this time it ended up being purple duct tape that I was able to find fastest. And so we're just going to continue where we left off. Again, this is a great thing to do while listening to an audiobook or something like that to pass your time. I've been finding as I've been doing this, because I keep saying up, down in my head, I keep thinking of Winnie the Pooh's song, up, down, touch the ground. And so that keeps playing through my head as I'm doing this. And it's okay if it looks a little silly, because weaving is a skill that we don't always use. In fact, very few of us know how to do it in general, and this is my third attempt doing this particular craft. And it is turning out very different each time, so Okay, to get the arm, I'm actually going to come here and kind of come down, and I'm going to go through one of these loops down here at the bottom and try to thread my way through the weave. Okay. And then I'm going to put it up like this. And then I'm going to put it up through this top one up here. Okay. But to make this feel like it's more of an arm and not just a loose piece of yarn, I'm going to wrap around this particular thing a couple of times. And then I'm gonna come down under here to make Pooh's other arm, and I'm gonna go again kind of up and wrap around this one. A couple times. And then just going to wrap around this arm a couple of times to make it also feel thicker. Okay. So that's kind of how this is looking. I'm going to go ahead and bring this to the back and loop it with some things back here to kind of tie it off and make a knot. Okay. Go ahead and cut that off. Okay, so there are things that I like about this and that didn't quite turn out. But to make it have more of the shape of Winnie the Pooh, I'm going to draw a little bit of this neckline kind of thing. I'm going to give him a big old nose right there. I kind of like drawing the edge on the thing here, just so you can kind of see that definition. I'm going to come down and do the same thing over here. These are my ears over here. And then I'm going to put his eye right here. Okay. And this, I'm going to go like that. And I'm going to go like that. Okay. So it is not my best. The other day when I was making the sample, this is what I made. And so you just kind of have to play around with it until it looks more or less like the shapes you're wanting it to look like. And then you would just do the same thing with your blue thread. You would put a piece of tape on the end and weave it through to make the balloon. Today, while we were at the in-person craft, I was playing around with my original sample I had made, and actually Gina was playing around with it, and so she added this like nice little blue thing here, which adds a little bit of variety and fun to the piece. Anyway, the back of my thing looks a little interesting. It's definitely not perfect. It's a lot of knots and experimentation. That one's a totally different outcome, even though I did the same thing I had done before. I probably needed to make this part of his tummy a little wider and put his foot lower down. Okay, so the one I was just showing you right now is this one, as I was showing you how to go about doing a weave back and forth. This is the sample I made the other day before, to just figure out how to do this craft in general. So it turns out differently, and perfect is definitely something I didn't achieve, so no. Okay, so this is the one I was just working on to show you how to do the weave back and forth, back and forth. It takes a lot of playing around with and figuring out what you want to do exactly with it and how to do it. So as I look at this now, I realize I should have made his tummy a little bit rounder. So this is the sample I made the other day, and just for fun, because I had some more yarn, I figured I could put some blue sky behind him as well to show the motion of the piece. But it's totally up to you, and it's a lot of fun. It's definitely an exercise in patience and meticulous repetition, but it can be a lot of fun with varying results. Well, alright everyone, I hope you guys had fun with this craft, and we're excited to see you next time.